Hello again and welcome back to the Restart Festival. I'm Sean, I'm going to be with you for the rest of the afternoon, hosting the various presentations and snippets that we've got lined up for you. So I hope you've enjoyed the morning so far. There's plenty more to come, and you can either join me here in our studio, or you can nip over to the Flourish studio, which you may even be able to see on your screen as well. Don't forget, keep your comments and questions coming in. Tell everyone about what's going on social media as well, and we'd love to hear from you. Really keen to hear about your success stories, your challenges, the opportunities that you see. There's been a lot that we've been hearing about this morning, and it would be really good to hear from you as well. Now, talking about starting up a business with the guys from Mentor earlier, and what's that like, how you can get your business up and running. And we're going to carry on that theme now. I'm going to hand over to Jordan Sharman from Hethel Innovation, and he's going to be talking about how you can turn that great idea into a successful startup business.
Thank you. Good morning. Hopefully everyone can see my slides okay, if we can get started. But what I'm going to be talking through today is how we can use the lean startup approach to launch your own business, or if you are an existing business owner, to develop a new idea. So before we get into what actually is the lean startup, a few bits about who we are and what we do. So I'm part of the business development team at Hethel Innovation, and we provide incubation and innovation support services. So we are here to help businesses to start to grow and to innovate. When we say start, we want businesses and inspiring entrepreneurs to have the best possible idea and the best possible chance of growing a successful business. When we mean grow, that can mean whatever it means to the business. So if it wants to recruit new employees, if it wants to develop a new product, if it wants to enter a new market, we can help businesses to do that. And finally, to innovate, we are here to help businesses to introduce new ideas, develop new products and services within the business. We currently provide all of our innovation support for free through our fund Breakthrough. The incubation we provide is currently at Hethel Engineering Centre, which has been around for over 14 years now, and over that time we've incubated over 180 businesses, usually in the engineering or complementary sectors. As well as that, we've Scotto Enterprise Park, which we've taken on more recently, and that again provides incubation services and support to traditionally STEM orientated businesses, and within both sites we have a team available to help those businesses. But also the support we provide is across the entirety of Norfolk and Suffolk. So if you have a business idea, if you want to grow your business, if you want to launch a new product, enter a new market, come and speak to us and we can help you through a number of different ways. The project we're currently in is Breakthrough, and you can see that we are here for 3 years. We're running till the end of next year. And we're here to help you develop new products, to start and grow a business. If you want to gain access to research or work with academia, and we're also here to facilitate cross-sector collaboration. Everything we offer is currently free. We just need to evidence that we've supported you. So for the next 30 minutes, I want to talk about how we use the lean startup approach to grow a successful business and develop an idea. But I want to talk about 5 key principles, looking at what is the vision, what makes a great product or service, how do we create an MVP, how do we get feedback, and do we have a business model? So a very interesting presentation by Mentor just now, who stressed the importance of the business plan. It'll be interesting to see if you share their thoughts, if you share ours, but we'll leave that to later on. So moving on, what is Activate? Activate is the beginning of our journey with you. It helps you to take that initial idea and build it into something feasible, and really understand what a customer is looking for and how you can apply that within the product, within the service, within the business. And Activate is built upon the lean startup principle. And Lean has a history that you can trace back to World War II. And following the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the Japanese economy was decimated and it needed to rebuild better. As part of the post-war treaty, the Americans sent over a cohort of statisticians, engineers, mathematical experts to help them rebuild. And they used statistical analysis and continuous improvement to help them rebuild. Part of those efforts, they went over to the United States to look at the Ford production plant, and they realized that it was a really, really productive site. However, it didn't cater for the evolving needs of the customer. Ford have a famous saying, you can have any color you like as long as it's black. So there was no customization available for customers. And as markets were changing and evolving, and so were customer needs, Ford was starting to be quite outdated and quite outdated in their processes. And they realized that if we can apply the principles of the Ford production system, but also to provide different car models and requirements to customers, it would really kind of accelerate the rebuilding of the Japanese economy. And this is where we get the Toyota production system from today. We build to the customer's needs. And what we find is this chap here, Eric Ries, used the lean startup process to help him with a tech startup, which over time, it allowed them to become more cost effective. It allowed them to develop ideas quicker, and they benefited from continuous improvement. So Eric Ries was part of a startup team developing a website called there.com, which is essentially a World of Warcraft, but without the magic. This was done in the 90s, really, really ahead of its time. They spent a lot of time, a lot of money, about $40 million, and they took it to the customers, didn't like it, didn't want it, didn't know why they needed it. So they spent all of this time, all of this money on something that wasn't needed. So Eric Ries took this learning, looked at the lean manufacturing and lean production system, and really utilized that to start his own business. But what we want to look at today and what we want to start on is what is the vision? Before we launch any business idea, we should consider why we're doing it, because this is what will influence the actions we take to make it a reality. So what we try and help people to do before they even start is to look at what is the vision for your business? What are you working towards? And then from that vision, what is the mission? What do you need to do to actually get there? So your vision is someday, what you want to achieve, and your mission is every day, what you are doing every day to allow you to get to your vision. And the little diagram you can see at the bottom is an affinity map. And this is when you can set yourself a vision, which may be, I want to solve a societal challenge. My missions will go underneath that, and it may be, I need to conduct regular research. I need to join steering groups. I need to read local news. These are all missions that you will have to do every day to allow you to reach your vision. And your vision hasn't got to be grand. It's just got to make sense to you. So if a vision for you is to have a sustainable level of income that can support you and your family, that's absolutely fine. But however, the missions must reflect that and be able to help you to achieve your vision. The most important part, it goes without saying, is to know what makes a product or service. So once we know what we're working towards, we need to know what we need to make to allow us to get there. So a quote that we have from Jeff Bezos of Amazon is that we see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we're the hosts. It's our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little bit better. So whether you like or loathe Amazon, the reason why Amazon are so successful in the position they are today is because they understand what we want from them. They understand the value that we want from Amazon. We know what we're getting when we shop with Amazon. And they've even developed new products very recently and new services to allow us to make that shopping experience even easier. So the one-click payment process, Alexa ordering through a speaker. These are new processes that Amazon has introduced to make it easier to order with them. But when we look at an idea, a product or service, it must follow a principle. Is if it doesn't solve anything, it's not a solution. And what we've got here the arrows, the diagram at the bottom, is a business that we've supported through our Activate process. And what they realized is they were customers themselves, they were tourists, and they wanted to explore a new city. And they realized that these city tours were quite outdated, quite boring in the sense. And they thought, well, what could be a solution to this? And they had a look what was already being done, and they realized, well, okay, there are citywide escape rooms about, but none of them cater for digital solutions, so none of them are modern. And that business who joined us on Activate was City Escape Games. So Will and Alec joined us in May 2019, and they worked with us to understand what would make their product truly unique and truly valuable to the customer. And they realized this idea through being a customer themselves. They went on a stag do, I think it was in Poland, and they had a paper copy of an escape room across the city. But what they realized was there were several barriers as to why it wasn't as fun as it could have been. It was fiddly, the paper was getting torn and having to pass it around. It just wasn't as beneficial experience they would have wanted it to be. And I'll revisit them later on in the presentation. But what we need to realize is that to develop a successful product or service, there are 3 customer needs that we need to satisfy. We don't need to satisfy all of them, but we need to satisfy at least one. And they come in 3 forms. There's gains, there's jobs, and there's pains. So a gain is an outcome that the customer wants to be able to perform. So in City Escape Games, as an example, it was that they wanted to benefit and gain the knowledge from visiting and learning about a new city. They wanted to perform actions, some jobs. So these can be functional, social, personal. So functional was to explore a city, social, to have fun while doing it. And then pains as well, things that your customer wants to avoid. So in City Escape Games, as an example, it was that they wanted to avoid learning about a new city in a boring manner. They wanted it to be fun. And then through that, we need to provide a solution. And our solutions, again, can fit 3 molds. One being the product feature. It's something that allows your customer to be able to perform something. So it can be the solution, the product feature could be, it allows you to connect to multiple devices. That is a product feature. A gain creator is how your solution creates gains. So a gain creator for City Escape Games is that when you complete your activity, you feel positive, you feel fulfilled, you feel excited. That's a personal and emotional feeling that you get when you complete the game. And finally, your pain relievers. It's how we will remove the customer pains that currently exist. So moving forwards, what we want to create here is a customer profile. Start off with the customer profile, looking at what the customer wants to be able to do, the gains they want to receive, and the pains they want to avoid. And then once we understand more about that, about what the customer wants from our solution, we can look about designing something that allows them to do that. So from the customer wanting to be able to use technology to support the visit of a new location, with our product, if we make it web-based, we are fulfilling that gain because it's use of technology. And what you will do is when you go through every gain, every pain, every feature, every job, you need to compare them against each other. And what you will be doing is you'll be crossing them off. And ultimately, you know you have a truly effective product or service when it fits the needs of your customer. So Peter Drucker is a famous management expert and worked extensively in the 50s and 60s, said that if your product or service truly fits your customer, it will sell itself. So piece of thinking from here is to think about, what does my customer actually want to do? What do they actually want to get out from using my product or my service, my solution? And how can I create something that perfectly fulfills that? But once we've created these assumptions of what our customer wants, we need to test it. We need to validate that. It's all well and good me saying, my perfect customer wants to be able to do X, Y, and Z. But if I create something and then I say, well, that's done, I'm good to go, that it's not always that simple. You don't know your customer until you speak to them, until you work with them. So what we want to do is we want to start thinking about how can we create an MVP. And Eric Ries, he believed that we don't want to be in a rush to get big. We want to be in a rush to have a great product. So we need to perform continuous cycles which allow us to validate the needs of our customer and to better understand what solution we're providing them. And we adopt this process, which is learn, design, make, test. Typically in Activate, when we used to be in the classroom, learn and design took place in the classroom. And then the business would go away, make something and test it. So the process runs a little bit like this: is we want to learn more about our customer. We want to learn if our customer values benefit over benefit B. And then we think, well, how can we design something that allows us to confirm or reject this assumption? And we would design a test. We would design an experiment. So the business would go away and create that experiment and would ultimately go and test it and gain that feedback. And we would use that feedback continuously until we were satisfied with what our solution provided and how that aligned to the need of the customer. And what we're always trying to do is always looking to try and improve things. And when we're developing a product, we want to make sure that we're not creating everything immediately, because that's not the principle of an MVP. And the MVP it's a solution or an idea that in its simplest form allows us to test assumptions and confirm the viability of the idea. And when you're building an MVP, I think it's easiest if I explain it in an example. But a customer comes to me and they say, I need to get from A to B more efficiently. I'm not automatically going to build a car. I'm not going to develop a product like the top example, because at no point am I able to gather feedback from my customer. They haven't told me they want an engine. They haven't told me how they want to travel. I can only gain that feedback once I've got to step 4, and I've spent a lot of time and a lot of resources to build that product, to build that solution. If we develop it like 2, at every stage we are testing that assumption. The customer says, I want to get from A to B more efficiently, so I build them a skateboard. What do you think? What works? What doesn't work? Oh, well, I want to have more control. Okay, well, I put a steering bar on it. It becomes a scooter. And eventually you will get to the point where your customer gives you enough feedback, enough information that you say, here it is. What do you think about it now? And the customer may, in best case scenario, may go, perfect. That's exactly what I'm after. But what we're doing from the bottom example is that we want to gain feedback at every possible stage. And famous businesses have done this in the past. Goo and Dropbox being 2 perfect examples of this. Goo realized that they wanted to learn if customers would buy premium desserts in supermarkets. And they realized that to design that experiment, they needed to get something to customers, and they realized that customers make these purchasing decisions based on packaging and appearance rather than actually needing to taste the food. How many times have you and I walked down a supermarket, seen a product, thought, that looks nice, I'll give it a go? You don't, it's very rare you actually try the food before you buy it. So from that, Goo made the packaging, they stocked it in a fridge, and they watched shoppers as they walked past in the supermarket. And when they popped it off the shelf and had a look at it and put it in their basket, the owner, James Everdick, would go over to the shop and say, oh, why did you buy that? I'd love to learn more about it. He was able to confirm the assumption that customers wanted the product based on the packaging and they wanted premium dessert. He was then also able to learn even more information from speaking with the consumer. Dropbox, again, created a product, created a service, wanted to understand if it was worth actually developing. So they thought, well, rather than building the whole platform, which takes an enormous amount of time, money, resources, why can't we build a teaser demo, a beta video, and see what kind of feedback we get? And they made that short video. And from that, the waiting list grew from, I think it was 2,500 to about 75,000 overnight. And that was the validation that the Dropbox owners needed to then develop it further and iterate the solution. So how do we go about gaining that feedback? So who do we test with is perhaps the most important question. And Steve Blank, famous business academic, said that we're not selling the vision and the product, the solution, the idea to everyone. We're looking to sell the vision to visionaries, the early adopters, the innovators, the people who will give us that time, will give us that feedback, and will be the first customers of the journey. So this curve here is the innovation distribution curve, and we can see here that we're not looking to appeal to everyone. We're looking to appeal to those who use or kind of need our value, need our product, need our service immediately and can see the value in it. Because feedback from these kinds of people is ultimately a lot more valuable than the late majority, the people who jump on the bandwagon because they think they need it. The innovators and the early adopters, they know they need it. So what we want to do is we want to think about what kind of people do we need to speak to? What personalities? What professions? What lifestyles? How can we use the feedback to influence future iterations in developing more bespoke product that fulfills the need of the customer? And Cityscape Games did that. And through working with Cityscape Games, we helped them to develop MVPs, to go out to customers and realize if their initial target market was the right one. So what they did is they jotted down some key pieces of information about their customers. They appreciate they'd probably be younger families. They opt for staycations. They want to use a tech solution, so they're going to be tech savvy. And they went to their target customer. They ran beta tests, and the feedback was generally good. But a key piece of information that came out from those tests were that they were missing a market. There's a huge, huge opportunity that they hadn't initially realized. And this was for team building. These young working professionals were saying, I love this, this is great. However, I might not hear about this if I travel to a new city, but I'm already in the city. So why can't I do it with my work colleagues? It'd be great to have a team building exercise. We can travel around Norwich, we can travel around Cambridge, which they've now gone on to do. Really, really understand the history of where we live, and have a beer afterwards, have a chat, have a laugh. And it's been a really, really great success story for Cityscape Games, and they do grow from strength to strength. And I would fully recommend having a go at their games. They're great, great fun. And I've pulled my hair out many a time to solve some of the challenges in them. So I do recommend them. And the final point of the presentation is that once we have all of our feedback, once we are happy with what we've got, is do we then go to fitting into a business plan? And there are a lot of benefits for needing a business plan. But what we need to focus on at the beginning is we need to be focusing on our product or service working. So we need to understand if the customer seeks value in our product, if in our service, and if they don't, how can we make sure that they do? So we want to understand that we get it right before we go too far and we're bound to a business plan that perhaps is outdated or doesn't suit our product any longer. So the question is, do I need a business plan? And for us, the answer is no. Of course, there are advantages, and it allows you to keep focus. It allows you to manage your finances more effectively, without doubt. And it shows the investors how you plan to grow the business. But with each of those comments, and definitely the latter two, we want to be able to communicate that our product and our service works. We want to know that we have a lifespan. We want to know that we can survive with the product and the service that we've created before we go developing a huge document that's how we're going to grow our business. And more importantly, if you are taking a business plan to investors, you want to validate, you want to show them that your product or service does work, that it does fulfill the need of the customer. And we recognize that as well, there are disadvantages to having a business plan. It prevents risk taking. If you are bound to a business plan, you may not want to take that risk that may not come off. You may not want to. It doesn't allow you to pivot and diversify as freely. You may see an amazing opportunity, look at your business plan and say, well, these are my trajectories, these are what I'm working towards. Maybe I shouldn't, not on this occasion. And that may be a huge opportunity that you miss. And finally, you could consider it to be procrastinating. Business plans are big documents. They take up a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of effort, and it can be mentally draining. But in a way, if you are spending all this time writing a business plan before you develop your product or service, could you be procrastinating? So what we want to do before we write the business plan is that we want to ensure that our product and service fits the customer need before we build that business plan. But there is something that we can do in the meantime. And that is to develop a business model. And this is something that we do a lot with early stage businesses, is that we help them to understand exactly what value you are creating and how your business performs today, how it can perform tomorrow, how you're going to be able to get there. And it's a canvas. It's a very, very useful tool because you can revisit it whenever you want at any stage of your business, whether you're 1 week old, 1 year old, one decade old. It's a tool that's really, really useful to revisit, to look at how you are going to grow your business, how you're going to sustain your business, how you will succeed. And it looks at your finances. It can look at how your cost structure and revenue stream compares. It can look at who your customer segments are going to be and how you're going to communicate with them. But also it looks at what are you actually going to be doing in your key activities, and who are your key partners, and what will be your key resources to allow you to create this truly brilliant business model, this truly brilliant business that works for you and it works for the customer. So in summary, from what I've just spoken about today, we want to, before we start the business, before we start developing this new idea, we want to know what is the vision. Because ultimately that would allow us to create these missions, these actions, to allow us to actually to get there, to realize the vision. We want to ensure that our product fits our customer need. And we do this by developing or creating assumptions and testing them, validating them, running experiments, using the learn, design, make, test process, and repeat it. If there's a new assumption that you want to go and validate, think about what do I need to learn? How can I design something that allows me to confirm or deny that? What do I need to make? Go out there, do it, and then test it, and repeat and repeat and repeat until you're at a stage that you're happy with, and you can then look to move the business forwards and announce it to the wider public. From gaining feedback, we want to speak to and learn from the early adopters, those who experience the challenge day in, day out. These are the ones who will give you that invaluable feedback, who will influence your future decisions. And then finally, we say to get your solution right, get your product to fit your customer needs before you go about making a business plan. If you do want that added security and you want to have that added understanding of how your business will operate, we would say opt for a business model canvas. And using that business model canvas, when the time comes, you can then build your business plan. So come and work with us. So we have, over lockdown, we have moved our training to be a lot more one-to-one based, and this has been more beneficial for businesses. Traditionally, Activate used to be a 4-week process in the evening. So if you had a 9 to 5 and you're looking to start a business, or if you wanted some clear headspace, it would be typically evenings. However, now it's a one-to-one basis with myself and other members of the Hethel business development team. And what we do with you is that we help you to define who your customers are and the customer profile that they possess. And we also compare it against a product profile. We want to help you to understand the operations of your business a lot more effectively as well. So we want to see where do your risks lie? Where do your rewards lie? Mitigating the risks and accentuating the rewards. And then we also want to help you to produce this business model that is effective and it works for you. And in following Activate, there is continued mentoring. We do a hell of a lot at Hethel Innovation. We've got an enormous amount of training programs. If you want to look at agile project management, if you want to look at general innovation techniques, if you want to become more lean, we've got a lot of training programs. We've got workshops looking at customer segmentation, which I happen to be running tomorrow morning. We have branding webinars. But alongside that, which I think is where we provide the most value, is that we provide mentoring. We facilitate discussions. We advise on what your next steps could be. So if you're coming up against a challenge or there's an opportunity you want to explore, come and speak to us and we can help you in any way we can. All of our business support services are currently free through our EU funding. So come and speak to us, and you can see on the next slide how to get in touch with us, how to get in touch with me. All of our support is free until next year. So come and speak to us. It'd be great to hear from you and to help as many businesses as we possibly can. So thanks for listening to me this afternoon. Hopefully that's been of value to you all, and I hope to speak to you all soon.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Jordan. That was a really interesting presentation that you gave there. I know a group of City College Norwich business management students are going to be particularly interested in your customer segmentation webinar because I teach them. So I might have to have a chat with you. I might have to have a chat with you about that later. But I think the other thing that you mentioned that was also very interesting, because you mentioned Lean Startup, Eric Ries. You also talked about Peter Drucker as well. I just happen to have actually. You can see that Managing Oneself book by Peter Drucker. He's very big on management by objectives and those kind of theories. But this book is particularly interesting because it leads very nicely into our next topic, which is all about well-being and mindfulness. So Jordan, thank you very much. I hope people get in touch. It was really good to see you, and I'll be directing people towards Hethel Innovation, because I think there is a lot of really interesting stuff going on, and it's all free, just as you said.
It sure is. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Jordan. And just as I was talking about there, and I think there's a lot of themes coming out from today, which is about kind of mindset, whether you've got the growth mindset or not. And what I found interesting about Jordan's presentation, he had a very different view actually from our previous speakers about the need for a business plan or not. And there are no right answers in business. I mean, that's what makes it so exciting, so interesting. It's actually you as a business person, as an entrepreneur, it's kind of down to you to find the answer that works for you and to find the right route, whatever that may be. And a lot of that will be down to your personality type. A lot of it will be down to the type of character that you are. But I think it's one of the big things that I hear for people who are used to being in employment, who are thinking of starting a business, and they almost want someone to say to them, am I doing the right thing or not? Well, you just have to do it. Actually, that's what running a business is all about. And if you don't do it, then no one's going to do it for you. I mean, it is a different mindset.